Hello and welcome to another episode of WVU Energy Express on West Virginia Public Broadcasting and YouTube. I'm your host, Zach Harold. Let's begin today's episode by catching up with our friends Mike and Bruce. They're out at their campsite getting ready to start a fire, and they have some helpful tips for us as we gather around fire rings this summer. Let's check it out.
You know, Bruce, the reason I do this is because I like being in places that are kind of undisturbed. And if we don't do this correctly, those places go away. We've got to make sure that we walk in places that are designated, and we've got to be sure that we camp in places that are designated.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we need to find sites where we don't destroy nature and destroy what's out there. Let's go up here and see what we can find and hit this site and see if we can find a place to camp or a place to build a fire.
Yeah. The best campsites are found, not made.
Yep, agreed. Well, Mike, this looks pretty good here. Of course, this is an established campsite, has a nice fire ring, and it's already kind of set up here. And so definitely if you come across a site like this, you want to use this rather than build a fire just out anywhere, right?
Yeah, I agree. We don't want to just disturb everything with new fire rings.
And you know, I've noticed even in wilderness areas, when you go camping in wilderness areas where there aren't fire rings, most of those campsites, established campsites, have a rock ring or something, and those are the places you want to build a fire.
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't want to disturb any more than we actually have to. Now, this looks like a really good place to build a fire. It's where a fire's already been. Needs some work.
Yeah, and to start with, probably get some of these leaves out away from where we're going to build the fire. We want to avoid, trying to obviously spreading this fire anywhere but this fire pit.
We've recently had some rain, so the odds of it taking off and going, because it's our responsibility. If we're going to build this thing, we certainly don't want to destroy the neighborhood with fire.
And speaking of our responsibility, when we get this fire going, we need to have a plan to put it out, because we need to put it out before we leave. We've got water with us that we're going to put it out with, but always make sure you have a plan to be able to put that fire out, right?
So what should we do? Should we start raking some of this fuel, the leaves and fuel away?
Yeah, let's get some of this away from this pit, and then we can get this fire going.
Great, I have marshmallows in my pack.
Perfect. Well, Mike, we have the fire going, and that actually feels pretty good on this cool fall day. What are some things that you think about when you think about fire safety out, on a campsite?
Bruce, I've seen fire out of control before, and I have to be honest, not to be a downer, but the first thing I think about when I think about fire is how destructive it can be if it's not respected.
Yeah, and for that reason, when I make a fire in a campsite, unlike I don't think of a bonfire, these big giant fires. I like to keep the fire kind of small so you can contain it and keep it in control like that, right?
Yeah, well, we've done a good job getting the rest of the fuel back away from the fire ring, so if a spark does jump out. And then we also have water here on hand if that were to happen. The outdoor conditions, it just rained last night, so it's a little damp. We don't have to worry so much, and there's not a tremendous amount of wind. I think all those things are important when you think about starting a fire, because if those things aren't lined up, you may not be able to keep it in the ring.
Yeah, because there are times of the year that it may not be safe to build a fire. Either it's too dry, too much wind, or a combination of those things, right? And so you need to be aware of those things. You can't always have a fire, even though it's really nice at a campsite.
Right. Yeah, and we have to pay attention too to the advisories. So sometimes in some places it's not permissible to build fires at all.
Right. The other thing around our campfires, especially when in a wilderness area, but it could be anywhere, we need to be just careful while we're moving around. We don't want to fall into the fire, stuff like that. Obviously we're maybe a long ways from hospitals and aid if you get burned. So we want to be really aware of the danger there. But also, of course, in this fire, we have cut firewood because it's an established campsite. But when you're out there in the wilderness, you don't have that. So of course we're not going to pack firewood in there. So what's our, we're talking about no trace ethics. What's our guideline there on firewood?
So anything that's down, anything that's already down is permissible for us to take and use in our fire rings. But you're never ever going to break anything off. You're never going to cut anything down. Obviously it would be green anyway, so it wouldn't burn right. Those things scar the landscape. And if every person that came through this campsite did that, there wouldn't be any trees left.
Right. Which is another reason to keep the fire small. You don't need as much wood, you just need enough fire to have some ambiance, maybe cook if you're going to do something like that. But yeah, so keep your firewood gathering to a minimum and don't be thrashing through the woods and tearing everything up, correct?
Absolutely. There's really no reason for you to have a hatchet or a saw in your backpack.
Yeah.
If you can break it, great. If you can't, fine. As I said around the fire too, Bruce, one of the things I think about is all the kids that I've had sitting around fires that have just thrown whatever they have into the fire. And when we think about no trace, I'm not sure why, but you think that an aluminum can would burn, but it doesn't. It
Right.
stays right there in that fire ring.
Right.
And so as we put those fires out, those things are there, and we can still see the remnants of other campers that have come through and done the exact same thing. Whatever we take into a campsite, we need to take back out. It's a really important part of no trace ethics. And you think you've burned it, but really it's still right there. And so just hold the urge to burn those things, put them back in your pack, take them out and dispose of them, recycle them if you can.
Yep.
Bruce, I think that wraps up about everything on fire safety and how to make sure we don't mess up these campsites with our campfire and our wood collection.
I agree. Tune in next time when we talk about how to dispose of waste and take care of your trash when you're out camping.
You guys ready for a secret mission? Good, because one of our friends stopped by to show us how to write and decode our own secret messages. Grab your Sherlock Holmes hats, your magnifying glasses, and let's get going, because this message will self-destruct in 3, 2,
So my name's Kayla Boerboom, and I am the 4-H agent for McDowell in Wyoming counties. And we are going to be doing Code the Class, which is a coding activity with a Cipher wheel. And we are going to be coding and decoding messages and words to post around the room. So can you think of a time when someone might have wanted to protect a message that they were sending to somebody else so that only the person they were sending that message to could understand? Cipher wheel is a great way to do that. So think of like you're a spy or something. This is a way that you can send those secret messages and only the person you're sending it to will be able to understand it. To get started, we'll need the Cipher wheel template, and we will need scissors and a brad. So we'll need these things. And the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna cut the wheel out, and you wanna be careful that you cut on the line. If you don't cut on the line, then you could cut off part of the code. So I'm gonna carefully cut out my wheels. Like I said, you wanna make sure that you cut on the line, because if you accidentally cut some of the letters off, or some of the symbols off, then when you go to code and decode the messages, it could be off, and you could make it so that you or who you're sending the message to won't be able to read the words. So you're gonna cut out both of the circles, and then so you're gonna have your 2 circles, and then you're gonna throw away your trash, and you're gonna get your brad. So you want to carefully line up your circles so that everything lines up. And if you don't do this right, like I said, it could mess with your code. So once you have them lined up the way you want, you're going to take your brad and you're going to carefully poke through. You're going to poke through your wheel, and then you'll put it out so that it stays put. Okay, and then you'll be able to turn your wheel and figure out your code. So how you make it so that the people who you don't want to read the message can't read it, is you have a key. And so for this activity, we're going to make sure that the A and the star are lined up. And then I'm going to be able to read the words because the other letters will correspond to the right symbols. So I just need to make sure that the A and the star stay together so that I can accurately code and decode the messages. So once I have that lined up, I'm going to pinch it so that it doesn't twirl around on me and get lost. The next thing we're going to do is I have a sheet that has coded messages, and I'm going to decode this. So the first one has a music note, a duck, and a paper clip. So I'm going to look on, make sure that my A and my star are lined up, and I'm going to find the music note, and that is a B. So I'm going to take my writing instrument, and I don't want to write on the card because I'm going to post it onto an object, and I don't want to give away what the object exactly is. So I'm going to write next to it so that I can remember what I'm doing. So I'm going to put a B. Okay, so B for the music note, and then a duck. The duck is an O. So I'm going to put an O, and there's two ducks, so I'm going to put two O's, and then a paper clip. Check and make sure that I'm still on the right code. So A and star is still there. Now I'm finding the paper clip, and it's a K. So B-O-O-K, so that word is book. So I would cut out this card, and I would go find a book around the class, and I would put this coded card there. All right, the next one I have is a flower. So I'm going to make sure that I'm on the right. My A and my star are lined up still. And then I'm going to find the flower, which is W. And I'm going to write around the side again, W, and then star, which is A. And then I have two paw prints. So paw prints are L, and there's two of them. So I'm going to put L, L. So that word decodes to wall. So I would cut that out, and I would go and I would tape it on the wall somewhere. So I've been coding some, but what would happen if I accidentally slipped? Like I messed up my code. So instead of it being A and star, I was doing it and looking around, and I accidentally messed it up, and I made it so that it didn't line up correctly. So let's see, if I was trying, let's say I was trying to decode pen, this one again, which we found out before was pen, I would end up having R, and then the sun would be G, so RG and P. RGP would be what I would have. So it kind of shows you, if you don't know that key, if you don't stay on the right spot and make sure that your star and your A lines up, you won't be able to read the code. We know, because we've already coded it, that this is P-E-N, but if I had moved it, then it would just be random letters that didn't make the word that you need. So this is the decoding part of the activity. So we would decode all these words, and then we'd cut them out and post them around the room. After we've already worked on decoding, now we're going to move on to coding. So we're going to create our own coded words. So let's look around the room, and we're going to pick out a few things that we'd like to make a list of, to make labels for, to put up. So each blank card has an area for your key. If you were actually sending a secret message, you wouldn't put it on the card, but since we're going to be working together and we're not really trying to hide sensitive information, we're going to have the key on here so everybody can find out and decode your words. So for instance, my key for this one, I want to make the A with the ring. So I'm going to draw a ring right here, and that's going to be my key for A. And I think that I want to make the word light. So I'm going to have A is the ring, but I'm going to do L, so I'm going to have a star. So I'm going to draw a star. Okay, and then I, which is a crown. Let me make sure I didn't move it because I thought it should. Okay, it's still the ring. So I is the crown. All right, and then G, which is the little timepiece. And then H, which is the flower. And T, which is the gear. So I'm sitting there and making my coded word, and after I made the word light, I would cut it out and post it around the room for somebody else to decode, or if I had a friend working with me, I could just swap papers with them and they could decode it and put it around the room instead. Now that we have successfully coded and decoded words using our Cipher wheel, let's reflect. So how is using a Cipher wheel like learning another language? I think it's like learning another language because you have to stop and work to translate from something that you're unfamiliar with, like this code, or another language into English and something that you can read and understand. It's easy to make a mistake while you're using the Cipher wheel. Just accidentally slipping a little bit can mess up your code. And it's easy to make a mistake whenever you're learning English because you're unfamiliar with it. Or if you're learning Spanish, or if you're learning French, some other language that you're learning, it's easy to make mistakes because your brain is learning, it's stopping to think and translate from one thing that you're not familiar with to something that you're familiar with. What did you guys think the most challenging part of this activity was? Why might somebody want to use a Cipher wheel? We had talked about how this was a way to kind of protect information at the beginning, that Cipher was a way to protect the information so that it only got sent to somebody who could understand, and that knowing the key meant that you could understand it. In history, it was used to send information that couldn't be read by other people. For instance, someone in the military or government could send a coded message to somebody else that they needed to send a message to, and if their messenger was captured, then they wouldn't be able to read the message. Now that you have a Cipher wheel, you can continue to code and decode words and messages. You could even work on creating your own Cipher wheel. You have the letters, and you guys could make your own symbols, or you could put letters or numbers or whatever you would like on the inside instead of these symbols. So you could use it and make your own. I hope you enjoyed this activity. If you had fun learning how to use the Cipher wheel, I encourage you to continue sending messages and maybe write a letter to your friend in the code, or a little note, or create your own Cipher wheel. Have a great day.
Welcome back, agents. Did you have fun? Now it's snack time, because even James Bond has to eat. Let's head into the kitchen for a recipe that's shaken, not stirred. I mean, it's probably stirred.
Hi, I'm Molly with West Virginia University Extension Family Nutrition Program, and today we're going to make Fruitschetta. You may have heard of bruschetta, but this is a fruity version. I've already washed our cooking surfaces and our fresh produce and my hands, so I'm all ready to get started. So for this recipe, you need some French bread. If you don't have French bread available, you could use an English muffin, a bagel, a tortilla. Also, you are going to use some reduced fat cream cheese spread. You need 1 Granny Smith apple, some honey for drizzling at the end, but that part's optional, a cup of diced strawberries, and then a cup of mandarin oranges that have been packed in 100% juice or water, not that heavy syrup or light syrup. So our first step is to slice our bread. I'm using a bread knife, which makes it a lot easier to cut through the bread. If you use another knife, like a chef's knife, you're gonna end up smashing it, and this helps to keep your bread in a nice shape. This would be a great recipe to serve for guests or a party. It's kind of like a fruit salad on a piece of bread. So I've got my sliced bread and I'm going to toast it under the broiler for a few minutes. Okay, I've got my bread toasting in the oven, and now I'm gonna start on our strawberries. I have washed these under running water, so they are ready to be cut up. And if you've ever had traditional bruschetta, you know that it's made with tomatoes and usually basil and garlic. So as I mentioned, this is like a fruit salad bruschetta. So I'm gonna dice up my strawberries, and you wanna do pretty small pieces so that when you get a bite, you're gonna have a bite of the oranges, the strawberries, and the apple. The sweetness from the strawberries, the apple, since it's a Granny Smith, will be real tart. Okay, so I've got my strawberries all cut up into small pieces, and I'm going to put them in the bowl and then add our other fruit. And you could definitely do different fruits for this. Anything that you might have on hand. I've got our mandarin oranges ready to go. And then our Granny Smith apple. I just finished dicing up our apple, so I'm gonna add that to our bowl. Such pretty colors. And I do smell our bread, so I'm gonna get that out here once I get this all mixed up. The juice that was on the mandarin oranges, that should help stop the apple from browning, and it's completely fine if the apple does brown a little bit. That's just the oxygen hitting it. Okay, I'm gonna get our bread pieces out. Okay, I've got our bread all ready to go and our cream cheese spread. Okay, I've spread on a thin layer of our cream cheese on our toasted bread, and we're gonna add about a tablespoon of the fruit mixture. And the cream cheese is gonna act as like a glue. And this is a part that the kids could help with, adding that mixture on top. And wouldn't this just look lovely on a plate for a party or a picnic? I think kiwi would look good in it. Okay, and then our last step is to add a little drizzle of honey, because that just sounds delicious. Or even a sprinkle of cinnamon would be good. Ready to take a bite. That is really delicious. To see the full recipe with ingredient list and directions, check out our YouTube page or our website. And I hope you join me back in the kitchen again real soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
What a fun time we've had. I think I'm gonna go sit by the fire and write some secret messages. Well, we'll see you right back here on WVU Energy Express next time. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful day.